Cotton, Okame Kick.
Heyo guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto the Melt. As a child, Naruto is taken in by Sarutobi to be his chosen successor to the mantle of Hokage. He develops a bloodline long thought lost to the world and learns along the way that, though he may be hated for his demon, his will of fire will burn brightly. And let's see what changes will come to the Naruto verse. Before we start, don't forget to give a like and subscribe to this channel for more what ifs, and check the description for the creator of this great fanfic. So let us start.
Chapter 8. Headaches. The rest of you enjoy the chapter. Readers, reviewers, thank you. Chapter 8. Naruto smiled as he and Sarutobi walked down the street back toward the tower. His knife had just been commissioned and the smithy had said he would notify the Hokage when it was done. As they walked down the street, Naruto nodded to those who smiled at him. Those who didn't, he turned his nose up at. They didn't deserve his smile. They weren't worthy. Now that he knew what he held, he had no patience for these people. He would protect them because it was his duty and for no other reason until they came to their senses. Sarutobi and his parents had sat with him at dinner and explained that he should not hold the villagers in contempt. Sarutobi explained the law he had made upon Naruto's birth and the punishments that came with revealing it. This law didn't apply to Naruto though, and he was free to tell whomever he wanted. He had nodded and said he would choose who he told with care. Hinata, Shino, and Shikamaru were high on his list of possible confidants. Yahiko explained the psychology behind the whole ordeal. The villagers were ignorant and stupid, but they felt loss and found him an easy target to blame. Human nature demands that there be someone to place the blame on, and Naruto unfortunately drew that lot in life. He had said that he would not seek retribution against them as long as they did not raise a hand against him. Sarutobi had said that was a fair concession. As a future ninja and Hokage, self-defense was a paramount thing. Naruto saw the young Uchiha boy again in the crowd and decided that perhaps a test was in order. He tugged on his grandfather's sleeve and bid him to bend down. "Sensei, I want you to use a jutsu to hide and watch what happens when I approach Sasuke. I don't know why he doesn't like me, but he has called me a demon before and I want to find out who told him that." Sarutobi frowned and narrowed his eyes. "Are you looking to get someone in trouble, Naruto?" "No. I'm looking to find out who did it so that maybe I can change his perspective. Sasuke's had it rough, but he's such an ass about everything. Lots of the girls won't play with me anymore because they like him and he doesn't like me. I'd just like to find out why. I'll watch. But the second it gets out of hand, I'll step in, understand?" Naruto nodded and walked off to engage the last Uchiha in Konoha. At least his week wasn't shaping up to be boring. Sasuke saw him coming and immediately turned away. He didn't need this today. He didn't want to have to deal with the blonde that his father had called a demon. Truthfully, he didn't know why his father had called the blonde such a thing, but his father was a wise man and Sasuke wanted his approval, so if he said the blonde was a demon, then a demon he must be. His eyes darted left and right, looking for an exit, but found none readily available. What he didn't know was that Sarutobi had cast a subtle genjutsu over the area that made it seem that all the passages were blocked. Sasuke readied himself for whatever came his way, while looking for potential help from the villagers. The damned demon wouldn't seduce him, that was for sure. Naruto padded up to Sasuke slowly and gave a friendly wave as he approached. His smile faltered slightly when the brunette glared at him, but he maintained it. Everyone had stopped suddenly and watched as the blonde Hokage to be walked up to the Uchiha with a bright smile in place. They were all on edge. Perhaps this would be the day that the boy snapped and tried to finish the job that another demon had started. "Heya Sasuke-san, how's it going? Go away." Naruto stared at the boy and tilted his head. This is why he hated trying to make new friends. It was like they were conditioned against him from birth. He slipped his hands inside his sleeves to hide his whitening knuckles from his fists being clenched. His sensitive hearing could pick up the people in the background muttering about how he was mocking the Sandaime by wearing an imitation of his Hokage robes. It's not like Naruto liked the damn ensemble, one of the first things he was going to change when he got into office. "I'm not going away, Sasuke. I have a couple questions for you, that's all. I don't have to tell you a thing, demon." Naruto heard several people snicker behind him and turned to give them a powerful glare, nailing many to the spot. Sarutobi's lips quirked slightly. The boy had quite the powerful killing intent when he wanted, and did it without realizing it. The blonde turned back to the Uchiha and frowned. Look, I don't know where you get off calling me a demon. I'm Uzumaki Naruto, not demon. Where did you get the idea I'm a demon anyway? Sasuke sneered and put his hands in his pockets. My father said you were a demon in disguise all the time. He had his eye on you for quite some time before he passed on. Naruto noticed the sadness in the boy's voice, but felt little pity. His eyes cut around to find many of the young boy's supporters with tears in their eyes. Pitiful. The boy didn't need pity, he needed someone to take care of him. Why his grandfather insisted on letting him live alone was beyond him. It wasn't conducive to his mental health. Sasuke, let me ask, since when have I ever seemed demonic to you? Have I ever hurt you? Have I ever tried to do harm to you? Have I? No, but, father always said you were lying in wait, for the right moment to strike. He said you should be killed. And once I have avenged my family, I'll carry out my father's wish. Sarutobi looked around to find many with smug looks on their faces. So, this is what they thought should be done. He'd need to redouble Naruto's training immediately. His ninjutsu training would begin tonight. If death surrounded Naruto even in his home village, then he would need to be able to do what he needed to protect himself. The Sarutobis have obviously been swept up by whatever spell you have them under. Once you're dead, it will break and they can once again become a great clan. They have lost their will of fire since they took you in. Naruto growled and bared his fangs. Many gasped when they saw them. It didn't help his image any. And what would you know of the will of fire? I know you'll never have it. Now, I'll be on my way. I have better things to do than stand here talking to a good-for-nothing demon. Sasuke made a show of walking by Naruto slowly, to show he wasn't frightened of the demon. But he found his progress halted by a strong grip on his forearm, a grip which shouldn't have been possible on an 8-year-old. The voice Naruto spoke in was grating and more than a little frightening. And to top it all off, it was like the air had gotten thicker, making it harder to breathe. Tell me Sasuke, if I was a demon, then wouldn't treating me like this be a surefire death sentence for yourself? If I was a demon, then for treating me like this, I would see you all burn. Naruto let the boy go and the harrowing experience was gone. Naruto turned to Sasuke and all the frightened villagers and smiled widely, his fangs glinting like guy's teeth in the sunlight. Luckily for you, I'm not a demon. Konoha is my village and I'll protect it, even for ungrateful people like you. Have a nice day. Naruto made his way through the crowd with no resistance, back toward the Hokage Tower. Sasuke finally caught his breath and turned away from the people seeing if he was all right, seething to himself. How can he have such a presence? I'll find out one day demon, and on that day, I'll end both yours and Itachi's lives. This I swear. Neither had noticed the pink and blonde-haired girls in the alleyway that had been shadowing the Uchiha. See, my mom said he was a bad person and Sasuke-kun said he was a demon. Didn't you feel that, when he looked at Sasuke? It was like the sky fell. Ino frowned and looked at the ground. It had been several years since she had spoken to her fellow blonde and truth be told, she kind of missed him. He was another boy to boss around and he was nice. But too many people had said he was bad and she had believed them. And after that little stunt, Ino wasn't sure who was right anymore. It was true what Naruto said, that if he was a demon then they'd all be dead. But what Sasuke had said was true too. Demons were crafty and masters of the wait. He could just be waiting for the moment to strike. Sakura, I'm not sure. Naruto's never hurt any of us. Let's see what happens in the future and then we'll go from there. The Pinkett looked horrified. You're not going to talk to him, are you? No. But I'm going to keep my eye on him. Naruto is a mystery, and I hate mysteries. The two walked in silence to the playground and fell into the games with the other children, losing themselves in the mindless chasing and darting about. Soon, they'd start classes at the academy and their lives would change. Sarutobi let his camouflage drop and locked step with his grandson, startling many people as he did. He didn't say a word until they were safely back in his office and he shut the door. Was that really necessary? Naruto looked at him, totally innocent in his demeanor. Was what necessary? You know what I mean. The killing intent, was that necessary? Naruto shrugged and shuffled some papers on his desk. If he won't be my friend and insists on trying to kill me, then I think he should learn to fear me as soon as possible. I'm not going to go out of my way to be friends with these people. Not anymore. Sarutobi blinked and pulled out his pipe slowly. These philosophical battles with Naruto could be so tiring. So, you plan to rule with fear then? That's a poor way to rule Naruto and only brings sorrow. You can't rule through fear alone. Then I'll let my deeds in the name of Konoha guide my way. I won't count out to these people only to end up on the short end of the stick later in life when they think they have me under their thumb. Sarutobi nodded and stood facing his panoramic window. The view of the Hokage mountain was a calming thing, something his nerves needed. He didn't notice his grandson scrutinizing the photos on the wall that mirrored the stone faces. Sarutobi heard the mumble and listened intently. Naruto had a bad habit of talking to himself out loud and it led to humorous things at times. Too bad for Sarutobi this wasn't one of those times. Blue eyes, blonde hair, same style too, looks just like I will in a few years probably. The more the boy talked, the more Sarutobi began to sweat and the harder he sucked on his pipe. It's him, isn't it? Sarutobi took a great tug on his pipe, trying to ignore the question. Maybe if he ignored it, it would go away. It's okay Gigi, you don't have to answer. I already know the answer. I know, because it's so obvious. How could anyone not see it? Naruto, I know. You can't tell me, but that's okay. Sarutobi turned to see the boy beaming, and looked back to the picture of the Yondaime. Ye gods, he's right. How could anyone not see it? I know who he is and I know where I come from. Now, I'm even more eager to hear about them. Naruto, how did you come to that conclusion? Is this a confession? No, I'm not confirming anything. I just want to know what makes you so sure. Naruto stared at his grandfather in obvious confusion. Standing up, he strode across the room and took the picture off the wall and held it up beside his face. Hello. Is it just me, or is everyone blind in Konoha? Or do they willingly have on blinders? You know what, don't answer that. I already know. They probably see me as an affront to his legacy, since I'm a carbon copy of him and all. Sarutobi winced again. Gods, why couldn't he just tell the boy? It wasn't like he didn't already know. Damn Minato and his stupid promises. The Yondaime never had a documented bloodline, so I'm guessing that the melt came from my mother. Naruto, please, just drop it. Please. I can't tell you, so stop digging. I can tell you when you make Chunin. Those are the rules. The boy nodded and went back to his paperwork. Sarutobi sighed and told his secretary to usher in his next appointment. He frowned when he saw who it was. Ah, Hokage-sama. How are you today? I'm just fine Danzo-san. What can I do for you? Nothing really. I just came to confirm something I heard earlier. Sarutobi was immediately on guard. And that would be. I have heard that there was an altercation between young Naruto and young Sasuke in the marketplace. The rumors say that young Naruto unleashed quite the bit of killing intent on the Uchiha and the civilian populace. Unintentional, I assure you. It was simply an argument between two boys who are going to begin entering puberty in a few years. Boys will be boys. I also heard that they threatened each other with death. Danzo, if you know what is good for you, you'll drop your line of questioning now. This is not under your jurisdiction. In fact, if I remember right, nothing is truly under your jurisdiction. You are on the council, a body of government that acts as advisors in dire circumstances for the good of the people. Don't overstep your boundaries. The one-armed man appeared unaffected on the outside, but on the inside he was seething. He turned to go but was stopped by Sarutobi's quiet voice. I know you Danzo. Don't do anything you'll regret. The man turned and sent an uncaring eye to Sarutobi. I've never regretted anything. Everything I've done has always been for Konoha, every battle fought, every war waged, every limb lost. Every decision I made was for Konoha. Sarutobi narrowed his eyes. And so have every one of my decisions been for Konoha. Every treaty signed, every battle fought, every life lost under my order. It was all for Konoha. Don't let your ambitions be the death of you. Danzo snorted and shut the door loudly behind him. Once he was gone Naruto shuddered and glanced to his grandfather. I don't like that man. Neither do I. That night, Naruto was outside with Sarutobi, while 10 clones were inside with Yahiko, reading 10 different things at once. Theory of Seals, Theory of Jutsus, a strategy book on Shugi, a book on the history of Konoha, one on Suna, one on Kumo, one on Kiri, a biology book, a history of Calaripate, and a book on the Biju. Naruto was surprised they were letting him read it, but was told that since he knew about his condition, he might as well bone up on the subject. Sarutobi was taking him through Calaripate and found it to be quite an interesting fighting style. Once he was thoroughly sure that the style suited Naruto, he sat the boy down and let him know they were going to begin in earnest now in his training. Naruto, since you have figured out so much at such a young age, I feel obligated to tell you a little more of my plan for your future. I know you like hanging out with your friends and playing in your spare time, but that's going to be put on hold for a while. The boy's face fell, but Sarutobi kept plowing on. It'll only be temporary, Naruto. They'll be entering the academy soon and they'll be busy being inundated into their family's styles even further than before. I'll be showing you how to further do your duties and then, when you turn 10, I'm packing you off to the academy. Naruto stared up at his grandfather with unbelieving eyes. But sensei, I already know everything they teach at the academy. I don't need to go there. While it's true that you know all the lessons there, Naruto, you don't know anything about teamwork. That's one of the biggest lessons that I can't teach you alone. I don't want you thinking you can skip out just because you're my chosen successor. There are certain traditions you have to upkeep before you become Hokage. And those are, you'll need to be on a team. It's a tradition of Konoha that we value teamwork above all else. You must graduate from the academy. Not even a future Hokage can simply bypass everything. You must rise through the ranks like a normal ninja. Then, either before you become Hokage, or in my case, while you're Hokage, you must take a team. These are Konoha traditions. Do I really have to go through the academy? Sarutobi glared at his pupil, nailing him to the spot. Yes, you do. No arguments. Any more questions? How are the teams selected? Worried about being on Sasuke's team. The boy nodded. Don't worry. There's a long-standing tradition of putting the Rookie of the Year with the last place candidate of the class, along with the best kunoichi. The others are divided up as needed. Good. There's no chance I'll end up with Uchiha Sasuke then, unless he's a complete moron at schoolwork. Sarutobi nodded and chuckled to himself. I still don't like the idea of having to go to school. The lectures will probably be boring. Then take a book to read or something. All that's required is that you pass the tests anyway. Now, I'm going to show you a few jutsu and you're going to make clones and practice them, alright? Naruto nodded vigorously. He loved to learn jutsus. I'll be showing you some I picked up early on in my life. I've learned a lot, Naruto, and I've imparted my knowledge to very few. Have the clones memorize the hand seals and then break up to practice different ones. Naruto nodded and formed a group of 20 clones and told them to watch what Sarutobi did. The first jutsu was Futon, Daitapa. Naruto watched as Sarutobi made the necessary seals and proceeded to decimate a few trees. The boy was giddy with anticipation and sent 5 clones off to practice. The second one froze Naruto with fear, literally. Sarutobi used Kanashibari on him and then had the clones leave and practice it on each other. There were no hand seals needed, it was simply focusing one's killing intent directly at a target. It just took practice. The third left Naruto without vision. Kurigakure no Jutsu, the hiding mist, intrigued the boy. Combined with his melt, it would be a deadly combo. He sent the clones off immediately. The final jutsu required them to go to another section of the property altogether. Naruto and his clones followed along obediently behind Sarutobi until they came to a stop beside a creek. Sarutobi turned around and smiled. Naruto, come stand beside me. The real Naruto stepped forward and stood beside the old Hokage and the clones watched as the old man formed one seal and Naruto was encased inside of a giant water bubble. This is Suiro no Jutsu. It's great for capturing an opponent. Only downsides are that you have to be next to a substantial body of water and you have to keep your arm inside the bubble for the attack to stick. That brings me to our earlier talk of teamwork. Naruto sat with rapt attention, not like he was going anywhere anyway. If this was used to capture the enemy and you had teammates, they could incapacitate the enemy ninja with little resistance. This makes it the perfect jutsu in conjunction with your team. Naruto nodded in understanding and Sarutobi released the jutsu. Now, practice hard and remember to come in for dinner. Don't make your mother worry. Naruto nodded and formed a few more clones to practice the jutsu on. 3 hours later found Naruto lying on the ground holding his head in pain. He'd read about information overload but had thought he could handle it. Not doing that again, that was for damn sure. He held his pounding cranium and made his way back to the house as he sifted through his thoughts. Luckily, his clones inside had dispersed earlier and let him know it was time for supper. He'd had a slight tweak of the brain but ignored it. Now he had to sift through all this information. Thank the gods he had the rest of the evening to go through it all. As he walked inside the house, Naruto groaned and leaned against the wall. That overload shouldn't have taken that much out of him. Knowing that if he ate as he was right now he'd be sick, he sat down to meditate and sort through the information. The information on the history of the countries was just what he thought it would be, boring. Nothing but boring drivel about how great the countries were and how they were formed. It was valuable information but it was boring. The information on the theory of seals was much more intriguing to him. It opened up a world of possibilities. He rubbed the seal on his stomach. There was no way in hell he would mess with that seal. No way in hell. The book on Shugi was kind of boring but with some of the strategies in there, he might be able to back Shikamaru into a corner he'd never get out of. Biology was kind of unassuming, until he got to the part about reproduction. His father had said he would get the talk soon enough, whatever that meant. The book on the Biju was the most interesting. The demons didn't appear much throughout history except in history-altering events or showed up sealed in different people or items. The Kyuubi was the only one that had never been sealed before, and if he understood what Sarutobi had told him, he would be the last. The beast would die with him. For such a powerful being, the Kyuubi was somewhat foolhardy. It had attacked Konoha unprovoked and had been beaten by a man and small child. The man had died, but the child lived, and kept the beast at bay. He shook his head, feeling somewhat less stuffy, and began to sort out the rest. Futon. Daitapa was somewhat natural to him, he supposed. He wasn't a master by any stretch of the imagination, but he had at least gotten it to work once. Kaneshibari hadn't worked right at all. He'd figure that one out later. Kurigakure no Jutsu required good chakra control and he'd have to keep it to make it work right. And Suiro no Jutsu, well, it was hard to maintain. He needed to concentrate more and his thoughts kept drifting to other subjects. His headache finally subsided and he meandered into the kitchen to find everyone already gone. Naruto groaned and fished the bread out of the cupboard and some meat and cheese from the fridge and made himself a sandwich. Sarutobi, not being able to sleep just yet, heard the boy rummaging around and walked in. Were you able to get any of them down? Kind of. Futon. Daitapa was somewhat easy for me but the others were kind of hard. Kaneshibari was the hardest. I just couldn't get the clones to be afraid. Sarutobi nodded and put his hand to his chin. That may be because you can't picture yourself killing yourself. Kaneshibari works by instilling fear into the opponent, showing them their own death. Unless you're suicidal, it doesn't work very well. I guess I'll have to find someone to help me perfect it then. I'll just have to do it to people who are unwitting. That's not very noble, Naruto. The boy shrugged. Or Ninja Gigi. I believe you told me that ninjas have very loose honor. In certain cases yes, but you shouldn't use that jutsu against unsuspecting people, Naruto. Especially fellow leaf nins. Even ones like Sasuke or those who talk bad about me. Sarutobi grinned and fetched himself a glass of tea. There are exceptions of course. If any civilians give you trouble, feel free to use an unthreatening jutsu like that. Just don't use it against any senior ninjas. They'll know what you're doing and will turn it back on you. Naruto nodded and took the last bite of his sandwich, washing it down with some milk. Suiro no Jutsu and Kurigakure no Jutsu just require more control. Once I have the level down to where they're easy to control, I'll try pumping more chakra into them and see what happens. That's a good plan. Now, you'd better get to bed. You have a busy day ahead of you tomorrow. Naruto nodded and left for his room. Once he reached the door, he grinned and turned around to Sarutobi. I don't know what I'm thinking. I was about to use the door. The old Hokage watched as Naruto melted into the floor and disappeared from sight. He sighed and cracked his back as he stood. That boy will be the death of me yet. The next few months of Naruto's life went by quickly. His friends all entered the academy at the age of 9 and Naruto kept up his duties at the tower. His knife had been commissioned finally and Sarutobi made him keep it at home until he had learned how to wield it properly. Naruto wasn't happy about that, but held his tongue. Bad things usually happened when he went against his grandfather on issues like that. His training kept up with Kage Bunshin and he had read through several books, absorbing the information like a sponge. His jutsus had become better to the point where he was now a master of futon, daitapa, although he rarely got to use the jutsu. Sarutobi wouldn't teach him any more jutsus until he mastered at least 3 of the 4 he'd been taught. So his repertoire now included kawarimi, henge, a badass shunshin, futon, daitapa, kalaripade, and he'd begun to learn how to handle his blade properly. It was just like Sarutobi had told him. A knife that big was totally different from a sword. He needed to be careful with it. He was still coming along nicely. His abilities with the melt were absolutely brilliant. Now, whenever someone came into the office that Naruto didn't want to see or, if Sarutobi wanted him there while he spoke to a dignitary so he could see how to handle them but didn't want him to cause a scene, he'd melt into his desk and stay hidden. The black and white view still freaked him out at times, but he was getting used to it. Training with Guy had given him a whole new perspective of speed and power. He could move at a pretty good clip while using the melt now, and switching substances was now an obstacle hardly worth mentioning. His taijutsu had skyrocketed in the meantime, but he'd found that anyone working with Guy was bound to pick up a thing or two. He might be insane, but the man was a hell of a teacher. Naruto's only thing that he wanted to get better on but didn't really have anyone to help him with were seals. He'd continued making storage scrolls and had refined them to where a scroll could carry as much as possible by modifying the seals slightly. He always had his entire library, very considerable for one his age, on tap in one scroll. It completely baffled Sarutobi and he asked Naruto to make him one as well. He'd sworn to himself to find Jiraiya so that he could teach the boy about seals. Konoha needed another seal master. Naruto had also been allowed to begin making small explosive tags, although the first few didn't come out quite right. The timing seal had been too short and had literally blown up in his face. Sarutobi had not allowed him to try again without more studying. All in all, Naruto's training went without a hitch. Sasuke still had it out for him and there was talk that the Uchiha was a shoo-in for Rookie of the Year when he graduated. Naruto couldn't have cared less. He didn't want to go to school anyway. His 9th birthday came and went and his friends stayed in touch somewhat over the school year. Hinata missed him badly and made great strides to visit whenever she could. Her mother passed away from whatever illness she had, leaving Hiyashi stricken with grief. He trained Hinata and himself relentlessly, if only to forget the grief for a short while. Naruto usually hung his head in shame when the girl's hangdog look came onto her face when it was time to leave. He needed to visit her more often and bring some sunshine into her life. She was so lonely, and they both missed their best friend. Naruto hadn't informed any of his friends he'd be attending the academy. He wanted it to be a surprise. And it would be a surprise. When his 10th birthday rolled around, it was a blast. No one knew that when the semester started back up, he'd be attending and had requested to be put in their class. Misery loves company after all. All of Naruto's birthdays had been typical. Party, gifts, and playing with his friends. But his 10th birthday was also when Naruto's whole world changed once again. No one had ever dared do anything against him or his family before, but one drunk, bitter ninja would change all that, and make Naruto face a great truth within himself. So, let me know what you think. Thanks for listening. I hope you guys liked it. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like for more what ifs and support the author. See you guys in the next video.